Hello and welcome to our gentle yoga flow this morning. Today's practice will focus on kindness and specifically cultivating self-kindness. This will be a Yin practice today. In Yin, we try to release the muscle energy, the tension and the holding so that we can drop into deeper connective tissues. So our class will include several longer holds, like 3 to 5 minutes. And I suggest grabbing a couple of yoga props for our class today. Yoga blocks, if you have them, or some kind of a firm pillow or equivalent. You might like to have if you have a bolster or a big firm pillow, that's great. A couple of rolled up blankets will work nicely as well. I will stay seated for our opening, but I would like you to recline down onto your backs as if we're beginning our class in Shavasana, okay? So I'll give you a moment to get settled on your backs. My name is Susan, and I appreciate you joining our practice today. So just another moment or so to get settled, lying down on your backs in any variation that you prefer, right? You might just stretch the legs out like Shavasana. You might tent the knees together while you're lying down. That can bring some ease to the low back. Let your arms be by your sides with the palms up, and soften and close your eyes. Let's take a full deep breath in together. And as you exhale, just a soft sigh out. Another deep breath in. And exhale, soft sigh out, just letting go of all of the things that have held your attention from your day so far. Taking a moment to mentally tune into the physical body. So scan your body head to toe and just notice what you notice today. Tune into your starting point today. What is it to be in this body in this moment? And use this as a reminder throughout our practice that we're using this body, right? This one that landed on your mat today. And now, please allow your awareness to settle in on your breath. And just watching all of the different variations and sensations of your breath. Allow your breath today to be your anchor. Whenever you notice that you are not here, you've checked out, you've started working on a grocery list or your to-do list for the day, or rehashing a memory, going over a problem you're working to solve in your life. When you notice that happens, just acknowledge that it happened and gently and kindly come back to your breath, come back to the sensation of the breath or sensation in your body, and just breathe and be here. And I'd like to offer an intention for your practice today. An intention of kindness, and not just kindness, but self-kindness. I find that not only in myself, but in my students over the years, the biggest challenges that we overcome are, or can be, how we talk to ourselves inside our head. For today, I invite you to let that talk, that chatter, become kindness. So staying reclined on your back, we'll shift right into our very first posture. From the legs being extended, bend the knees, walk the heels in towards your bottom, and then drop the knees open wide so soles of the feet come together. Now, if this creates a lot of pull or tension on the inner thighs and groins, if you have those yoga blocks or a couple of cushions or blankets, you can take those props and support the outer hips and thighs. Bring a little more ease. And now allow yourself to completely settle into stillness here. Butterfly posture on your back. So you probably have days like this as well. Sometimes I have days where I just don't feel like practicing yoga. Maybe or maybe you don't feel like doing the things that you normally love to do. Maybe you feel lethargic or dull, right? Maybe you're just not feeling happy for no apparent reason. Maybe you're lacking trust in yourself. Maybe you're hurting. When I have a day like that, I try to make an intention for the day to just be kind and tender with myself that day. Now, kindness comes from a place of gratitude. Right? Kindness is literally rooted in gratitude. Once we have a grounded and secure base, from that base, kindness, love, and gratitude can emerge, can blossom, can grow. Remember that kindness also extends to yourself, right? Not just outward kindness or outward expression of it. Without taking care of you first, it leaves us unable to be able to take care of others. Sometimes kindness as an idea has a connotation or a meaning or a perception that someone is weak or naive. Now, I don't think that's the case. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite. I think that being kind requires strength. It requires courage and wisdom. And today, through our physical practice, we're going to work on these emotions and how they sit in the body. So through twists and hip openers, we'll be targeting the liver and gallbladder meridian lines. The liver and gallbladder meridians are related to the emotions of anger and kindness, right? They're just like two sides of the same coin. And then also, we'll work through forward folds, inner thigh work, and low back with the kidney and urinary bladder meridian lines. And the emotions related here are fear and wisdom. And because of the focus on the hips, we're also targeting the second chakra, which is related to our ability to flow. It's a lot that we're going to work on today, huh? Take one more breath here in your reclined butterfly. And then taking hands to the outer thighs or knees, just ease and help the knees to come up so the feet are on the floor. Just pause for a moment with 2 feet on the floor. Just noticing, allowing everything to neutralize. And then one at a time, lift the knees, bring them in towards your chest. We'll go into a reclined twist or a 2-knee twist. So with the knees in, let's release the arms out like a T or a cactus and drop both knees over to your right. So dropping over to the right first so that the left hip and thigh are up on top. Make any adjustments that you wish from here. When I do a 2-knee twist, my preference is always to bring the knees higher than the hips. This will bring more ease and balance to the pelvis and the low back. You may choose to take a blanket or a yoga block if you have it, maybe place that between the knees or even underneath the outer right hip and thigh. Choose a posture, a variation, or use of props that allows you to settle into stillness this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, whenever it is that you're practicing. Twists are associated with letting go, right? Twisting out, detoxification. And I was mentioning earlier that the kidney and urinary bladder meridian line can be kind of caught up with fear, right? Sometimes that fear is fear of letting go. So as we rest for a little while longer in our twist, what can you let go of? Is there something you're continuing to hold on to that's not serving you, that's weighing you down? Breathing into and through sensations, emotions, thoughts as they come up. Got another breath or two here. On an inhalation, untwist, slowly moving back onto your back. Pausing, rest the feet on the floor. And then hugging the knees into the chest. We'll take this twist on the other side. So hug the knees in, drop both knees over to your left. Stretching the right arm out to the right. And remember to take this first little bit that we arrive in the pose and decide whether you want to use a prop or change the positioning of anything. You want to find a shape in your body that you can sustain for a couple of minutes. Not only sustain, but rest in, find stillness in. And once you find stillness in the body, tune your awareness back into your breath. And just notice the breath. Notice how it's moving. Stay tuned in to each breath in, to each breath out. Or revisit your intention today, our intention of kindness. Can you let go of to make more space for kindness, for gratitude, for love, compassion? And remember that our focus today is cultivating kindness and compassion for ourselves. Right? You're here, valuing yourself enough to take this time for you today. Sow the seeds of gratitude, of kindness. We've got just a little bit longer here. Just another breath or two. On your next inhalation, start to untwist yourself, rolling back onto your back, hugging the knees into the chest, maybe rock a little side to side, maybe move the hips, the knees in a circle. And then extend your legs out long now. We'll stay on our backs for one more posture, one of my favorites, called banana or banana asana. So stretching the legs out long, take your arms and extend your arms overhead. Now, any shoulder issues today, you are more than welcome to leave one or both arms down by your side, okay, as required for your body today. Now we'll try to keep both hips and both shoulders down flat or flat-ish, right? Take your right leg, slide your right leg out to the right. And now slide your left leg to the right. So both legs are going same direction. Now you might also take your upper body and shimmy it to the right. So what we're doing is creating a nice C curve, just opening up the whole left side of the body. So you might feel this stretch all the way from the ankle, the outer leg, the outer hip, the sides of the waist, the ribs, the underarm, the back of the arm. If you're lucky, you feel it in all of those places at one time. Now, as you start to settle in, there's a couple of variations of your posture that you could take here if you like. You might cross left ankle over right, or maybe right over left, right? There's no right or wrong, just try them out. You could also take your right hand and catch the left wrist, just to kind of hold it in place, or maybe intensify the stretch. But be mindful of how much stretch you create, as our intention with our yin postures is to release muscle energy and holding. So you don't want to go too far into the posture that it requires you to tense up in order to hold it. Now allow yourself to just simply settle in here and breathe in. Breathe into the left side body, the ribs, the lungs, the back of the arm, the hip. Anywhere you're feeling this sensation, breathe into it. Energy follows attention. right? So be mindful of what you're placing your attention on. That's where the intention, our intention, comes into play during our practice, right? We're using the intention to, in a sense, rewrite the script of your thoughts. Think about it, those thoughts that just pop into your head, that little voice that comes in. It's almost as though we didn't have to think about it, right? We're not conjuring up the thought, it just happens. It's like habit, conditioning. In yoga philosophy, we call that a samskara, like a groove in a record, a vinyl record, right? We're using the intention to rewrite that groove. Let's inhale and slowly come back to the center of your mat. If you like, feel free to bring the arms down by your sides for a moment before we set up for side two. And then as you're ready, reset. But now left leg will go to the left. Right leg goes to the left. Maybe the upper body shimmies to the left. So creating this really lovely C curve. A reminder that we'll try to keep both hips and both shoulders down. As you settle in, decide whether you want to add any of those variations in the body. Maybe you cross ankles left over right, maybe right over left. You might catch the right wrist with the left hand. And then just allow yourself to simply settle in. Staying tuned into not only the sensations, but the breath and your intention. Our intention of cultivating kindness today. Self-kindness. A little while longer here. Just another breath or two. And your next inhalation, slowly start to bring yourself back to the center of your mat. Allow your arms to come back by the sides. Just pausing for a moment. And please bend your knees, bring your feet to the floor, and take your feet out wide. So the feet are out about as wide as the mat. Just let your knees go side to side a couple of times. And then dropping both knees over to your right. Use the left hand. Press yourself up to sit. Well, not really to sit. We'll actually come onto hands and knees and we'll take dragon series or a kneeling lunge. I like to use my blocks for this, and maybe you will as well. And depending on your space, feel free to grab a blanket so you can cushion your knees. So come to kneeling about the middle of your mat or so. And we'll work the left side of the hip, the left hip first. So it means we'll take the right foot forward. So the right foot steps forward and bring that foot forward enough that when you shift the hips forward, we're feeling the sensation along the front of the left hip and thigh somewhere. Now, I like to use the blocks right here. The blocks are really helpful for just bringing the ground up a little bit closer. So blocks for me today are placed on either side of the front foot, resting the hands, dropping the hips forward. You might even let the whole chest and belly rest on top of the front thigh. So what we'll be doing here is a series of dragon postures. So we'll do several postures back to back without coming out, all right? And just starting with our baby dragon, just easing our way into our hips, reminding ourselves that in yin, we're working for stillness or towards stillness. So even though we're using a lot more muscle energy in the dragons to hold us upright, do your best to soften and release the muscle tension, muscle holding as much as you're able to. Good, let's take one more breath here. And we'll transition now to baby dragon or low dragon. So let's take both hands, walk them to the left and walk your right foot out to the right. So now both of my hands are inside the right knee. So for a low dragon, you might just stay here if you're using the blocks. Perhaps you just come down to the floor with the hands. If you've got the yoga blocks, they're really great, or a firm pillow, something that you could place the forearms down. This is getting us a little bit deeper into the hip flexors, the inner groin, inner thigh. All right, remember how I talked about those areas that we're going to work? Let's take another 1 or 2 breaths here. Let's transition to a high dragon now. So if you're on the forearms or the elbows, come back up to the hands. Walk your right foot so it's back over to the left, so it's just in front of the hip. If using the blocks, you could simply take the blocks and flip them up to their higher height and stay here. You could also take hands up to the front knee. Now this provides a lot more extra weight, right? Because you're not resting the hands and taking the pressure off anywhere. So if this is too much for the hips today, just simply come back down. So you'll notice perhaps that all of these variations kind of target that hip a little bit differently. So in this higher variation now, we're more front of the hip, right? Front of the hip and thigh. That's not to say that you're not still feeling it in other places, but that's kind of our target area right here. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Beautiful. If hands are up, bring them back down to the blocks or to the floor. And let's take your right leg back And just pause here. You can sit on the feet for a moment. You could take child's pose, dropping the head down. Just pausing before we go to the other side. And then as you're ready, reposition, reset, this time with the left foot forward. So the left foot forward, the right leg goes back. We start in the baby dragon, right? So baby dragon, hands are on either side of the front foot. Using blocks or not using blocks, doesn't matter. We're just dropping the hip forward. So we're feeling, hopefully, most of the sensation across the front of the right hip and thigh. Again, that's not to say that's the only place you're going to feel it. You might feel it in the back of the left thigh, maybe still in the inner thigh and groin area. Reminding ourselves that we're working towards stillness, right? So as much as you can, release the holding, the gripping, especially in the areas that we're working in the hips. Couple breaths more here in our baby dragon. We'll start to transition to our low dragon. So the left foot walks out to the left, so both hands come inside the knee. If you're using the blocks, just travel them with your hands. Either stay there or come down a little bit lower, maybe taking forearms down to those blocks. And just settle into this lower variation. And as you settle in, can you tune into where and how you feel the sensation a little bit differently here? Our hips hold a lot of stuff, right? Leftover emotions, bodily injuries, trauma, just all of the experiences in our lives. Even though the experience in that moment has passed, our body has a tendency to hold on to some of that residual energy. And through our practices of yin, it allows us the space to release and let go of some of that. Especially those things that aren't even attached to memories anymore. Yeah, let's transition up now. We'll take our higher variation for this last minute. So come up to the hands, walk the left foot back over to the right so that it's in line with the hip. If using the blocks, remember, you could just simply bring the blocks up to their highest height, or you might bring the hands up to the front knee. We don't want to go so far, so deep into our yin postures that it causes us to grip and hold. So just be mindful of that, especially in this high variation. Let's take one more deep breath here. Hands will come back down. Left leg will go back. Either sitting up on the feet or once more, if you like or prefer, take child's pose, just resting the hands and the forehead down. Right. For our next posture, we'll stay on our knees. So come on up to all fours this time. We'll take something called quarter dog, all right? So starting on all fours, take your right forearm and bring it down horizontally. So the right elbow is right where the right hand was, and then the forearm comes horizontally. Take your left arm and stretch it forward. Melt the heart down and back, ideally keeping your hips pretty much stacked over
your knees. Now, depending on arm bone length, probably, you might be able to rest the forehead on the forearms or bring it all the way down to the floor, whatever feels most appropriate for you. Now, with that left arm extending forward, come up onto the left fingertips and just let the fingers walk a little more forward, and then plant the palm of the hand down, keeping the arm extended. Just feeling a nice stretch, the back of the arm, the armpits, maybe across the left side of your chest. Few breaths more here. One more deep breath. Bring your left hand back under the shoulder, and then press yourself back up to all fours. Yeah, let's take that on side two. Left forearm comes down. Right arm extends forward. And then as the right arm's forward, your chest, your heart melt down and back slightly, keeping your hips about stacked over your knees. Forehead once more. Maybe it's resting on the left forearm, maybe it's on the ground. With the right arm extending, come up onto the fingertips, walk the arm a little more forward, and then plant the palm of the hand down. Noticing the sensation of the stretch, breath. Breathe into the areas of sensation. One more deep breaths here. Last breath, just here. And now bring your right hand under your right shoulder, press yourself up to all fours. And then if you're using a blanket under the knees, we'll take that out of the way, set it off to the side, and bring yourself all the way down onto your bellies. So as you come onto the belly, we'll take Sphinx pose next. So all the way down on the belly, up on the forearms. So elbows are right underneath your shoulders. I like to use this little trick of just taking hand to opposite elbow, just to make sure your elbows are the right distance, and then release the forearms so they're parallel out in front of you. Now, if at any time this becomes too much for the low back, you have permission. You always have permission to exit a posture. So you might just come to crocodile, resting the forehead out in front of you, right? Or you could simply just walk the elbows slightly forward to reduce any tightness in the low back. But I like to start with elbows right underneath the shoulders, forearms parallel. And then while we're here for the next couple of minutes, you decide whether you keep the head lifted, or it's actually a really lovely stretch if you drop the chin down. You get this really great stretch to the upper back and neck. Mm. As you might have guessed, this particular posture directly targets the low back, the lumbar spine. So notice if tension builds up back there, right? Maybe in the low back, maybe in the glutes, the backs of the thighs. Sometimes we unconsciously grip and hold. To keep tuning into sensations as they shift, as they change, perhaps they deepen. Two more deep breaths here. And to release, walk both arms forward, stack the forearms or the hands, let the forehead rest down. And I like to then widen the feet and the legs just a bit, bring more ease to the low back. And after a breath or two, shimmy the hips side to side, just moving out any tension that you released. Right. Please bring the hands underneath your shoulders. Press yourself up off of the floor. We'll do something that we don't often do in a yin class, but I'd like to move a little bit of the stuff out that we got unstuck. So we'll do a couple of sun salutation variations, a gentle variation, right? You always have the option to skip these. Maybe you rest in child's pose or take a downward facing dog. But if you're with me today, let's come back to hands and knees and then find downward facing dog. So hips up and back, little bend in the knees. We haven't done any of this today, likely. And then nice and easy, walk your hands back to your feet. So we're in Uttanasana or forward bend at the back of the mat. We'll take half lift, hands on your shins, look forward and lengthen. So find a flat back position. So that depends on how high you come up, right? You come up as high as you need to so the back is flat. As you take your next exhale, you fold all the way back down. Now we'll inhale and come up. So find your halfway point, then press into the feet and bring yourself all the way up. Let's stretch the arms up overhead and lower the arms down. Good. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, Uttanasana, forward bend all the way down. Inhale, find half lift, look forward. On your exhale, hands find the floor. Walk your hands forward, bringing the knees to the floor. Keep walking the hands forward until we're in a kneeling plank position. For a stronger variation, feel free to pick up the knees for full plank. Good. On exhale, we'll press back to downward facing dog. Then walk the hands back to the feet. See, nice and easy variation of Surya Namaskar today. Inhale, half lift, lengthen forward, find your flat back. Exhale, forward bend. The next inhale brings you all the way up. So find your flat back, then press into the feet and arms reach up and lower the arms down. Let's do 2 more of those, just that nice, easy variation, all right? Inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, forward bend all the way down. Inhale, half lift, lengthen forward. Exhale, forward bend. Walk the hands forward, come to the knees. Keep walking the hands forward to kneeling plank or full plank. Let's stay for 1 full breath. And walk yourself back, downward facing dog. From here, hands walk back to the feet. Half lift, lengthen forward. Exhale, forward bend. Next inhalation brings you all the way up. Reach up. And then lower the arms. Good. Last one. Just like that. Okay. 1 more. Inhale. Stretch the arms up. Exhale, forward bend all the way down. Inhale, lengthen to a flat back. Exhale, forward bend, walking the hands forward, come to the knees. So plank or kneeling plank, yogi's choice. We'll stay for 1 full breath. And then back to downward facing dog. Good. Rather than bringing ourselves all the way up to stand after that last one, bring your knees down to the ground. We'll actually come to seated, shifting back to some yin postures. The next posture we'll take is dragonfly, working inner thigh, groin, as well as the back of the thighs. So dragonfly is a seated posture where we take 2 straight legs and extend them out to either side. Now, I say straight legs, but that doesn't mean that your legs have to be completely straight. You might have a nice, generous bend in the knees. Position yourself in such a way that it allows you to tilt the pelvis forward. So coming into a forward fold. That also might mean elevating the hips. I love to do that here. Just bringing blanket or something underneath the hips and then taking the legs out. Right, so the legs don't need to be in any prescribed distance apart. We're just stretching the legs out. Begin the posture, if the legs are out, with the toes pointing up, right, rather than letting the toes roll back or in, right? Remembering everything is connected, toes up, right? If the knees are bent, then, feet can be down on the floor. You could even support underneath the backs of the knees if they're deeply bent, okay? Lots of variations here. So we'll hold this in a forward fold straight down the middle for 3 whole minutes for this posture. So a couple of options I'll show as you get started. You might have the blocks out in front of you to support forearms, right, at any height. If you have a big bolster or a cushion, you could bring that support out in front of you as well to support the upper body, right? You don't have to use any props at all. But whatever you choose, do your best to be still while you're here, right? Do all your fidgeting. Make sure you find a position of variation that allows you then to, for the rest of the hold, to just be still. Keep coming back to sensation. Keep coming back to your breath. And a reminder again to notice the conditioned thoughts that come up. And if you find that they are undesirable, replace them with your intention today. That intention of cultivating kindness, specifically self-kindness.
Mm. A little while longer. Two more deep breaths here. Slowly start to bring yourself all the way up. If you used any props, you can set them off to the side. Taking hand to the inner knees, just bend the knees, bring those feet to the floor. We'll do a little movement through the hips, taking them side to side before we move on to the next posture. We've got two postures left here. The next one is swan pose, right? So outer hip opener. We have two options for this. You could take first option, and we'll do the left side first. So first option is the upright variation, where the left knee is forward and the right leg is extended back. Or if this is not accessible for any reason for you today, come down onto your backs, crossing left ankle over the right knee, either keeping the right foot on the floor or picking it up. Yogi's choice which variation you take. I today am going to stay reclined on my back, but if you would like the other variation, then feel free and take that. Okay. We are working left hip though, so left ankle is over the right knee. Or remember, left knee forward. There should be no knee discomfort, whichever variation you choose. If you're reclined on your back, you can flex the left foot, bringing a little extra muscle energy to that knee. And it will also bring a little extra energy to the outer hip, the area that we're targeting here. Just a little while longer. Few breaths more. Slowly start to exit here. If you're reclined on your backs, just stay there. Uncross ankle from the knee. If you're in the forward or upright variation, just simply take the left leg back and bring the right one forward, reclined on your back. Just change the legs. Right crosses over the left now. Decide how deep your variation is going to be, whether you keep the left foot on the floor or pick it up and take hands behind the thigh or onto the shin. Keep coming back to your breath. The mind will continue to wander, right? It's just what the mind does. So when you notice it happens, you gently and kindly bring your attention back to the breathing, back to your intention, back to the here and the now. Isn't that where life happens, right? In the here and the now? Not in the future, not in the past. It's happening right now. So stay here and stay present. About 3 breaths more here. And then slowly start to exit the posture, uncross. If you are in the forward or the upright variation, just bring yourself down onto your backs. We'll finish with a reclined twist. So if you're already on your backs, great, stay there. So our final posture today will be twisted roots. So it's a reclined twist where we also wrap the legs. Let's do the left side first. So cross your left thigh over your right. So thighs are touching, then bring the knees up towards your chest, right? So the feet are lifted off of the floor. Now drop both knees over to your right. So the left hip and thigh are on top. Now make any adjustments you like, right? You've got all your props around you. So if the knees don't drop all the way over, great use of blocks or pillows are to bring them underneath the knees to support on the right side. You can stretch the left arm out to the left, either with the arm straight, elbow bent. I love twisted roots. It not only gets the outer hip and thigh again, right? Like we just did in our swan pose, but it also gives a really lovely twist in the spine. Settle in, soften in. You might even allow your mind to drift back to what you could let go of. What things might you be holding on to that don't support the intention today of self-kindness? Can you let go of the self-doubt, self-criticism? Let's inhale. Slowly start to untwist. Move back onto your back. Uncross the legs. Just pausing for a moment with 2 feet on the floor before we twist to the other side. Just allow the spine to find some neutrality before we twist the other way. All right. Cross right leg over the left. So we'll go the other way. So the thighs are crossed, then pick up the feet. Dropping both knees over to your left. So the right hip and thigh are on top. If you used any support, go ahead and bring it in. It's usually a pretty good indication if you used it on one side that you'll use it on the other, but that doesn't mean you have to, right? Each side of the body is a little bit different. So we honor those differences in our body and use our props to support. The right arm is out to the right with the palm up. Maybe the arm is straight, maybe it's bent. Position it so that it feels the best for you. And then for the remainder of our posture, find stillness. Be still. You have anything else that you could let go of? Maybe it's just tension and holding. The body holds that tension. Most oftentimes, whatever brought it isn't even there anymore. Right? That event, the trauma, whatever it happens to be, the body remembers even when we've let it go. We think we've let it go up top. Let's take one more breath here. And then slowly start to untwist the spine, unwrap the legs, 2 feet to the floor. And once more, just pause for a moment with the feet on the floor. Let the spine return to neutral. And then one thing I like to do after a twist before I settle into Shavasana is with the feet on the floor, just for a breath. Pick the hips up, taking bridge pose, lengthening tailbone toward the heels. And then as you exhale, just lower the hips all the way back down and find your final rest pose today. So we could take constructive rest, tenting the knees together, feet out wide, or take the legs and extend them out long, letting the arms rest by your sides with the palms up. And if it's comfortable, softly closing the eyes. As the eyes close, take this opportunity to mentally scan your physical body. What is it now to be in this body in this moment? No judgment, just notice. Now let your awareness come back to your breathing. It's holding awareness gently on the breath. The poem I'd like to share in our final posture today, Shavasana. The poem is called "Kind Hearts Are the Garden" by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Kind hearts are the gardens. Kind thoughts are the roots. Kind words are the flowers. Kind deeds are the fruits. Take care of your garden and keep out the weeds. Fill it with sunshine, kind words, and kind deeds. Please begin to lengthen and deepen your inhalations. Just bringing yourself back to your usual state of alertness. Maybe you start to wiggle fingers and toes. Adding more movement as you're ready. Bring yourself back up to a simple seated posture. Maybe even doing so with eyes still closed. And as you come upright, we'll join the hands in Anjali Mudra, palm against palm, bowing chin to your chest in a gesture of gratitude. Gratitude to yourself for valuing yourself enough to take this time for you today. And as always, I thank you so much for sharing your practice today. Namaste.